Okay, hi guys.
Hi,
Hey.
welcome,
Um,
welcome.
yeah, welcome everybody to episode 2, Girls Gone Verbal, a social work podcast. Today we are going to be talking about diversity in the field, how we appreciate it, where we experience it, what do we learn from it, that kind of stuff, all that jazz. So we can start out with an introduction. Thanks for joining us. If you didn't join us for our last episode, I'm Virginia Pinzon, and right now I am a MSW student placed at Orlando Health with the Reach Department. We do post-discharge things, help people meet their basic needs, help them find primary care when they are lacking in resources. We do more than that, but that's just a quick overview.
Just
Yeah, who wants to go next?
I'll go next. My name is Sheridan. I am interning at the Office of the Public Defender in the circuit, and I'm a mitigation specialist intern. So I meet clients at Orange County Jail, and I help them complete program applications. I have them sign releases of information to get their medical records, mental health records. And I also complete biopsychosocial assessments to help with their alternative sentencing arrangements if they qualify for essentially to help get them out of jail. And I also provide them with resources so that they have something to get them on their feet upon their release. And I really enjoy my work there. I find it very fulfilling and I love it.
I'm Carolyn Morrell, and my internship is at UCF Restores. We provide trauma management therapy to first responders, frontline medical workers. All of our treatment is free, so people can come in. We have an intensive program. We have a regular outpatient. We have single session. If someone like a firefighter, law enforcement officer had a bad call, just wanted to talk about some acute stress that they're having. I'm a generalist, so I do a lot of phone screenings. So talking to people who want to be clients, we have to collect a baseline of information to see if they fit within, I guess, our treatment modality because it's very specific, as well as we have a peer support program I support. So we go to professional groups like firefighter, law enforcement departments and train them how to do peer support as well as resourcing. So I do a lot of referrals for people looking for different things. Sometimes they're current patients, sometimes they're people that have called us, but mostly if someone's gone through our program and they want to have couples counseling or they have some things from childhood they want to discuss or they want to continue talk therapy. Sometimes other specific things like rapid, what is it called? Rapid I can't remember the exact term, but basically, if somebody was looking for like a specific rapid resolution therapy. So, for
Oh,
example, somebody was like, I want to go to an intensive rapid resolution therapy program for my trauma. So, if it's somebody had something specific they're looking for, I can look for like vetted professionals for that specific kind of therapy that they're looking to get.
that's pretty cool.
Very
I see a lot of fun profiles.
Well, that's exactly what this episode is about.
Yes, diversity in the placement,
Yeah.
diversity in the field.
All the different types of people we meet, the different types of people we work with, that we help. Yeah. So you probably have a wide range of clients. We all do. We are going to talk a little bit about how we can move beyond tolerance of different cultures, ethnicities, um, sets of personal values, and move to appreciate how different everybody is. Identity is a spectrum, right?
Yes.
We're humans from all different walks of life, all different sexualities, different abilities, cultures range from one end of the spectrum to the other. Every human is different. So how do we appreciate that? And if we do have some unconscious or even conscious bias, I feel like everybody's been there before. How do we set that aside so that we can be great social workers? Uh, yeah. So before we dive into everything, our sponsor today is Phi Alpha, new Pi chapter here at UCF. Carolyn, do you have anything you want to say about Phi Alpha before we get started?
Phi Alpha is amazing. It is our social work honor society here at UCF. Only the top 35% of students are invited to join. I highly recommend that if you are invited that you join us. Hot secret, hot tip. Me and Virginia are on the leadership board this year.
No, please no flash photography.
So, and I wanted to say that it's really important to me, that we're going to make a place of community support and growth. A lot of times things like this, it could be just like a checkbox. Oh, I'm in the honor society. But we have an opportunity this year, starting this summer, all the way through 2027, that we can make a meaningful impact in each other's lives. We are the professionals. We're going to graduate together. We're going to be working in the community together. Why don't we use this as a foundation to build relationships, to support each other? We already have 3 guest speakers lined up for the fall semester. I know, amazing. So we're going to have a lot of special speakers coming. We also have an invite I send out on web courses for the NASW social. So it's the Alumni and Friends event.
Yeah.
So that's invite for everybody. And of course, we're looking for more leaders. So if you want to organize events, if you want to take a role of planning, like we really want you to join, we really want you to come, like let's hang out together, let's have fun, and let's build each other up professionally.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And we can talk more about Phi Alpha later as well. But it is a really great organization. I think we can all benefit from interacting with, even if you're not a member. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive in. First, we're going to talk about our own roots. What would you like to tell the viewers about your identity, your values, background? What makes you guys you?
I can say something. So my parents are missionaries, and we grew up overseas in American Samoa. So because of that, I was out of the country for my primary school, and I went to bilingual school. I feel like it affected a lot of how I view life in America. And I know that we're going to get to this later about how people's opinions of us, but like nobody would know that I grew up in American Samoa by like looking at me. They don't know that, or that my parents were missionaries. So like we never watch TV. My family doesn't watch TV. I've seen very few shows. So like a lot of times they feel like references or they talk about it. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And also like it's very diverse there. The cultures are very different. Everyone's Polynesian or they're Filipino or like, you know, they're from Tonga or Fiji. Like there's very, very, very few Americans there. And then my cultural family are my dad's side of the family were farmers. My dad grew up on a cattle farm, and they didn't have a lot of money. And he was late to his senior prom, because the cows got out, and he had to wrangle them.
Oh, that's a fun story. I gotta hear more details about that.
So they're like, so I hear a lot of like farming stories. Then my mom was the first person born in America, and her family were Canadian. So they immigrated from England to Toronto, and then they moved to America. But my mom's brothers were all born in Canada, and they're very, very English. I know you can get English people as being like very proper, and like the foods they eat, and like they're also from Canada, which is different. Which is also like people wouldn't know that like my family's Canadian, so like they're kind of culturally different. And I feel like all of that together being able to view all that has helped me perceive that everyone's different, especially here in Orlando. There are so many multicultural people.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy all
It's
the
a
places
very
people are
diverse
from.
city. A very diverse city.
Yeah, and people could
Compared
have
to a
moved here
lot
at
of
any age.
US.
Like, they could
Yeah.
have been born here. They could have moved here when they were kids. They could have moved here. Like, even a friend of mine who's 47 moved here from Venezuela like a few years ago, like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. So, anyone could be, we never know.
Never know.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice to be here in Orlando while we're doing this because like you guys said, you get to meet so many different people and you can never, I feel like a lot of cities you go to, you meet a lot of locals and
Yeah.
you meet a lot of locals here in Orlando, born and raised, but also you don't. You can't look at any one person and say like, oh, I think they grew up here. Everybody's different.
Or even the military. Like, I meet people all the time that
Yeah.
are saying like, well, I was in the Navy and I lived in Hong Kong. I lived in
Oh my goodness,
Germany.
yeah.
So you could think, oh, that's a white American person. But maybe they served for 15 years in the Navy and lived overseas the whole time.
Right.
Mhm.
Like, we can't,
They
it's crazy. We wouldn't know that.
what is the word? It's like they've collected tokens of different cultures along the way,
Yeah.
like, and it's
Yeah.
built into their identity since it was how they lived, you know? For me, my family is from Florida. I was born and raised in Jacksonville. And
Duval girls.
yeah, Duval. So yeah, but my identity, I gotta be honest, I always trip on this question because I think there's nothing really like super interesting about where I came from or but then again, like your identity is not really about being interesting anyways. It just is who you are. So that's who I am. I resonate a little bit with like an Italian American heritage, but at the same time, I have a lot of values that align with like, what do they say? America.
Oh, like American.
Like there's a word for it. I forget what it is, but I read it in a textbook somewhere. But like
All these
a lot of
textbooks.
individualistic like values.
yes. Okay.
Yes.
I'm a first generation student. Like we grew up like maybe like lower middle class. So like I feel like I have a lot of privilege with the identity that I align with. So that's where I kind of get like I'm just a white American. You know what I mean? I'm just Virginia.
You're just Virginia.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
just how it's supposed to be. You're
Right.
just Virginia.
That's just me. So I feel like throughout all these experiences, and we're reading in the textbook about privilege and oppression, that's something that like I individually work through and I learn about the most that I can throughout this whole experience and beyond, even when school is over. It's something that's always interested me, and I think that's part of the reason why I chose social work is just to learn about how my identity affects my life and the people around me. So I think this will be a good discussion. But
There's also pretty privilege.
oh, you
So,
know all
I
about
know
that,
you
don't
bet.
you, Carolyn?
I think that's you have
You
that.
guys are too funny.
Yeah, you're so sweet. Stop. No flash photography. But yeah, that's me.
Wow.
Thanks for sharing.
Thank
I didn't
you
know
for
that
sharing.
that you're Italian American.
I didn't know that
shared
either.
that.
I wouldn't even like those people who are like, oh, I'm 2% Cherokee Indian.
Ah,
I never want to be like one of those people.
Yeah, but maybe your family. Like I
How
dated a
many-
man
But-
that's German, and his family would make like German food.
Right.
So
and
like
stuff like
they were
that.
obviously
and,
like they were white Americans, but
Yeah.
they were definitely German. They would make German food. Seems like they had some like family
Yeah.
traditions they still follow.
can I
Yeah.
ask how many generations back is your Italian heritage? Do you know like when
I
your
think
family came to the U.S. or?
I want to say like 3 generations.
Oh,
Okay,
So
that's
not like
it's not that
super
far, then.
recent, but also not too far.
yeah.
3 generations, let me think.
Okay.
I think it was my mom's great grandmother. Would that be 3 or
Ooh.
6? I get confused.
There's your mom, there's
My
your
mom,
grandmother, and your
My
great-grandmother.
grandmother.
I think 4. Is that 4?
4? Because my grandmother's grandmother. So mom, grandmother, mom of the grandmother, and then the mom of the grandmother's mother. So 4.
That sounds like
4.
4
4
to me.
generations.
That
4
sounds like 4.
generations back.
Yeah.
And then my English, though, is like 3, and they were still super
Mhm.
English.
Wow.
That's so interesting.
It just sticks with you. That accent. Do they have the
Is
accent?
it the accent?
Like, is it the
They would
British
eat.
accent?
You remember how they have like the egg cup, and you make the soft
Yeah.
boiled egg, and you crack the top off, and
Yeah.
you dip the
Oh,
eggs in
that's
it.
really English.
They would still be doing that.
That's really
I
English.
ate that as
I
like
love
a
that.
child.
Wow.
I feel like
Aw.
that's
That
very
is
English.
so cool.
But it just goes to show, like I said before, identity is a spectrum. I feel like I do identify with the Italian American heritage.
Yeah.
But from what someone else says about how I grew up or my family is like, they might think of it different.
It
They
doesn't
might,
matter what they think.
right? But I
It's
feel
about
like
you.
as social workers, we see like we're able to take a step back and look
Mhm.
at the way other people view other people's identities. And like, I feel like I like to pick that stuff apart. You know what I mean? And think about like, well, like who has the right to say that their identity is this or that or valid or not valid?
Yeah.
But then when does it turn into like appropriation? It's like where,
Mm.
like you can't really define that line, can you?
But you are.
Yeah. I guess
You're
yeah,
not
in some
appropriating
respects.
the Italians.
No, I don't think I am, but I think a lot of people, I think identity is a heated topic
True.
for white Americans, like from the outside looking in, because it's like you're a white American. Like, what is there? You know what I mean?
Like it
That's
feels like you've been so separated from your culture. Yeah, I can understand that. Like
Yeah.
for an Italian in Italy to look at you and say,
Right.
like you're Italian American, there might be a level of judgment there, but at the same time,
Right.
you're still Italian American. Like
Right.
regardless.
It's just interesting to see like where people draw that line and like
Mhm.
what other people think about your identity. It really doesn't matter, but I don't know. There's still like so like everybody holds their identity, culture, and values close to their heart.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like I think sometimes when other people talk about their identities, they can see it as like I'm talking about my experience, but somebody might hear me talking a certain way and say, well, that wasn't my experience. This is my experience of what you think you are. Like, I don't
Hmm.
know.
You're very
And I think
considerate.
that's
very meta.
interesting.
It's very meta.
I think you make a really good point because I think that is, earlier we were talking about like cultural competence versus humility.
Mm.
And I think
Mhm.
that's where it's so important as social workers. Of course, not everybody is going to be this way. There are going to be people who hold judgment against you for representing your heritage in a certain way. But as social workers, and as a future social worker, when I hear you talk about your Italian American heritage, I don't know anything about being Italian American, and I'm like hearing your perspective and your experience, and I'm just making space for that, right? Like
Mhm.
if I was Italian American, I don't think I would feel the need to kind of contradict what you're
Yeah.
saying with my experience. And I think that's what is very important about like coming from or working in the social work field is not imposing your own beliefs about what that culture should look like
Yeah.
on the other person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's never going to look how you expect it to. Because everybody is so different. Everybody's just comes from like holds so many different identities that you'll never be able to be fully competent or know their experience without
Right.
just hearing them out. Does that make sense what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And as
we
they tell
see you and we hear you, girl. You
Yeah.
are Italian American.
We
That's
will
what I'm trying
never
to
want
be
say.
to
done. We'll never be done
If you want to
learning.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
And then when you talk to someone again, they'll tell you another story.
Mhm.
And you'd say, like today, you told me it was like we've talked so many times for 2 years, and I've never heard you say that. So,
What?
that you're Italian American.
Yeah.
I
keep learning about.
We keep
learn
learning
so
about
much.
each other.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
last
we
time,
do.
when we
Cool.
first learned
Yeah.
that you were first generation.
That blew my
Yeah,
mind.
Carolyn thought that was
I like
crazy.
to ask questions about other people, you know?
Yeah,
But they're not
you're
even
humble.
questions
You're
I-
very
I-
humble.
Yes, I wouldn't even think to ask those questions though.
Yeah. But that's the beauty of this podcast is like we're learning about things about each other that we probably never would have learned otherwise,
Yeah, that's
ever,
Yeah.
cool.
you know?
It's true.
Unless you were like my therapist, which would be a huge conflict of interest.
Dual relationships.
Right. But
Yeah.
Sheridan,
Yeah.
we've been doing a lot of talking about our identities.
I like to ask other
What
people
about
questions.
you?
Oh, you gonna pull that? But I'm
I'm kidding.
I know a little. Sheridan shared a little bit with me before. I have grilled her a little
Yeah.
bit.
Okay.
On,
Yeah,
like-
So
we
you
went
guys
to
have
the-
discussed this.
We have
Like,
discussed
remember
this.
the culture fest that we went to? What was that? The thing that we went to like last year. CF did the
When we went and see all the RSOs, there were all different
And
cultures.
that was super cool. I
Yeah.
really loved that.
They
I
were
loved
fun.
that.
There was a lot of cool
But yeah,
people
we
there.
kind of got into it a little bit there. But my family is Guyanese. Both of my parents immigrated from Guyana. It's a Caribbean culture in our country in South America. It's the only Caribbean country that's not an island. So we get like kind
Oh,
of
that is
singled
so
out. We get a
cool.
little singled out because we're not an island. So
Just another example of how other people see someone else's identity and they may assume something about you. And
Yeah.
we'll talk about it later. We already
No,
talked about it,
really,
but we'll talk about it
really.
later again.
because there's a lot of assumptions
Yeah.
that come with that. When I say
Mhm.
it's in South America, people are like, "Oh, you speak Spanish." I do not speak Spanish. Actually,
Mhm.
Guyana is the only English-speaking country in South America as well. So there's a
Wow.
lot of history, and it's the history of Guyana is so interesting, and I've recently been delving more into that. But I digress. My parents both immigrated to the United States, so I am a first generation American. I think that makes me a first generation American. I was born in the US, and I think that has been an interesting experience to see the way that American and Guyanese culture have intersected in my home, because the values and the ways that like, they're very different cultures, I think, and that's kind of caused a lot of internal conflict within me for quite a while.
Mhm.
The values in Guyana, it's a very collectivist culture. You know, family is so important. You rely on your family. You can depend on them. You can call on them for anything. And I think that that's a great thing. And I think that we need more of that, because
Mhm.
growing up in the US, the major clash for me has been individualism and wanting that level of independence, but it's just non-existent within my own culture. And so it's been like a fight. It's been like a push and pull. Like, yes, I love my family so much, and I want to have that close relationship with them and be able to like lean on them. But I also value that level of independence
Mhm.
that comes with being American. Like it is such a stark difference, and I think now I'm really starting to feel that the most in my 20s. So it's something that I've been learning from. I also think my parents kind of quickly assimilated to American culture, not completely, but that's also a really interesting part of being from a culture outside of the US. There is a lot of pressure to assimilate when
Yeah.
you're growing up, or when you've grown up in a country which culture is so different, and you're coming to the US and you're just like, it's 180, like very
Yeah.
very different. You feel the pressure to assimilate, right? So I think on top of me feeling that internal conflict, I've also felt a little bit disconnected from my culture for that reason. I've only been to Guyana once when I was very, very young, so I've never really been fully immersed in the culture. So I'm proud to say that now I'm really starting to delve more into my ancestry and my cultural background, and it's been very liberating. And
Hmm.
it's a very good feeling to reconnect to myself and also to lean more into that collectivist um, value. I
Yeah.
think that's very important. It's a challenge though. It is really challenging to like allow put trust in other people to like carry you. Does that make
Wow.
sense? That's
When everybody around you
when
in American
everybody
culture is telling you not to.
and everybody is so
Yeah.
independent, and I think that's what's so scary is like you want to mimic what you see in your peers
Hmm.
and you want to feel that level of independence, but I think it's gone too far. We need to build our villages and our community again because
Yeah.
that is that is lacking,
Yeah.
but it's so important.
In this
So
economy,
in this
it is
economy, like
absolutely
you should
important.
be able
Yeah.
to call on people and rely on them to like be there for you.
Right.
And I th- I don't know, maybe we've gotten a little off topic here, but I think
No.
No,
that
I
is
don't think
I
so.
think that is
Nah.
so important. So I've been
Yes.
challenging
Second that.
myself to to reach out to people and to ask for help when I need it and to ask for favors instead of relying on myself so much to figure it out. I don't have to
Yeah.
figure everything out. I
No.
don't.
You have a
I don't want to
village
do that
that can help
anymore.
you.
Yeah. I need to be more Guyanese. I need
Yeah.
to like I need to rely on my village.
Yeah.
That's so
I'm,
crazy.
I'm
you
learning
said
how to be a
that.
villager.
You're a great villager.
Thanks. I'm working on
That
it. I'm really
reminds
working on
me,
it.
oh my gosh, I'm sorry for getting off topic now, but that reminds me of, I don't know if you guys did the discussion post for this class yet, but
I saw it's due today.
yeah, I'm gonna, I don't want to say their name, but somebody posted on the discussion board about how um, their form of self-care is to be there for their support system. And I was like, that is
Wow.
so like, that's so amazing that, cause like as a lot of Americans and they're like individualistic, and of course self-care is not selfish, but when we think about self-care, it's like, um, eating healthy for myself,
Mhm.
exercising for myself, doing skincare for myself, relaxing by
Wow.
myself.
Yeah.
But when you
True.
show up for other people, you're feeding into like you're making your village, and that is self-care, is to have a village and to have a
That is
network.
so
And
interesting.
yeah.
I gotta
So
read this discussion.
thanks
You
for
know
making
who
that
you are.
post. You know who you are. If you're listening, you know who you are.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
But it's very true. When you
Yeah.
are there for other people and you show up, your cup is filled. Like
Yeah.
you receive from that as well.
It says something about your values when you incorporate the people you love into self-care too. Yeah.
That makes my heart just so
very
warm and
sweet.
fuzzy.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. So, I think that was a good discussion. We've talked a little bit about our own identities, how we, our culture, our values. How do we set that aside when we're working with clients who are different from us? Or maybe the same? Like, I feel like when you're working with somebody who's different from you, you don't want to impose your values or your culture on them. It can kind of like damage the professional like working relationships you have with the client.
Mhm.
But you also don't want to put the client in a vacuum of like yes, 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 yes. If you share values with them, you know, maybe self-disclosure isn't always a good thing even if you agree with a client about their values or their decisions. You know
Mhm.
what, like ChatGPT does that to you. Like
Yes.
whole yes man
Oh, yeah.
Syncophantic.
activities. Yeah. Is that say that again?
Syncophantic. Syncophantic.
Syncophantic.
Yes, I've heard of that.
So that's what they had a lot of problems with people doing things that were wild because it agrees with you too much.
It validates you way too much. I actually had a conversation about this the other day because this really gets me heated when people go to ChatGPT for therapeutic advice because it's not going to give you
Yeah.
what you need. It's not going to give you what you need. It's only going to validate you.
Mhm.
Even if you're saying the most out of pocket stuff, it will say, wow,
Yeah.
you're making a really good point here. And I'm so sorry that you've had this experience when the whole time you're the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's
Right. Yeah. When you're working with a client that maybe your values and culture align with, or like you have some kind of like countertransference with them, I feel like setting your values aside is better for the both of you. It lets you to think clear, like lets you think clearly, and it lets the client think for themselves.
I come from like a different place in my brain. Like when I'm listening to people, I'm trying to listen for what they need and they want. And I'm trying not to focus on myself and like my
Yeah.
opinions and my interpretation. But this might come through a background of like, I love Michael Singer, The Untethered Soul, like mindfulness, meditation. I've done like, I have a certified life coach. So like kind of those experience of like spirituality with like life coaching is that even regardless of my relationship with that person, I have to come to this conversation like I'm like empty and they're
Yeah.
just saying what they need or want. Cause we need to listen. Like if I'm trying to talk to them about somebody calls me, let's say at UCF Restores and we're talking and it seems like they want treatment, but then they're saying a lot of things like, well, I want to get the intensive outpatient, but I need to talk to my wife. And oh, 2 weeks is a long time. And that'd be a lot of time out of work. So, like, at first it seems like they're interested, but then they're making a lot of excuses. Hey, sounds like you maybe need to talk to your wife first about like what timeline looks good. I could give you some possible dates and then you let me know.
Leave the ball in their court.
Always leave because we have to let people decide on their own whether or not we think it's good for them is irrelevant. Like they need to choose to do it.
Yeah.
So we always have to give them the option to they need to opt in,
Yeah.
like strongly opt in because they're not going to succeed if we're convincing them.
Yeah. If there's no personal buy-in. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you set your thoughts about whether or not they need treatment aside and you say, hey, here's some dates and times. Call us when you've decided.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And that's kind
Set it
of the
aside in that way.
bias is like where I try to come to is like not thinking about maybe their identities of like, it's a firefighter, it's a law enforcement. Like maybe those identities are like exist because that we have to screen for that. That's the population we see. But generally like their identities or like my identity don't matter in the conversations that I'm having, except for maybe if things got deeper on like you were talking about, for example, like Samoa is communal. So it's very, very different than Western society. So that could come into effect, but then the other person would tell us if that value is important to them and we need to consider it. Or if like religion was important to them, if they said like spirituality is really important to them, they would communicate to us and then we could take it into account. But if they don't communicate to me that an identity or a value is important, I'm going to assume it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Until they say
Right.
it matters.
Like don't make assumptions about people. Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of leads into a little bit of a discussion about stereotypes. How that can affect the way that you work with a client, you know?
I want to hear Sheridan like must talk to some really interesting people.
Yeah.
I do. I talk with a pretty interesting population.
Well, yeah, people may stereotype the population you work with a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you set that aside? They may be stereotyping themselves.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's an interesting
Absolutely.
angle.
Yeah.
There's an interesting labeling theory. Labeling theory is that exact concept of when you are labeled as a criminal, you will perceive yourself and exhibit behavior of a criminal because you know that that's what people already think of you. So why even bother proving them
Right.
wrong, right?
Mm.
But that is an interesting concept within the work that I do with my clients. There's a lot of stereotypes about the incarcerated population. And I think I've done a pretty good job of setting aside biases I may have. I know that in the beginning of the work that I was doing at the PD office, when I went in, my supervisor told me, you're going to be dealing with people of all different backgrounds, criminal backgrounds particularly, which means you might also come into contact with sex offenders. And that's something that I know many people have, strong feelings about. It's not always easy.
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing to come into contact with a sex offender and know that you are trying to help them get alternative sentencing. But I've noticed that a lot of times when I come into contact with people that have charges for sex offenses, they're not how you would expect them to be in your head, or the way that they're built up by other people or made to seem, And so when I'm working with that particular population, I've learned to set aside my own ideas and perceptions of them that I might have had before I came into this field, which I'm very proud of that I've been able to do that. And I essentially do the same thing as you, Carolyn. I really respect their self-determination, and I listen to them because I'm not there to judge them. I'm there to listen to them and to help them. Right? As a social worker, that is what I want to do. Sometimes it's difficult with people with sex offense charges because there's not a lot of help available to them, especially if they're people that are dealing with like substance abuse. A lot of programs just will not accept it. Like, that's a hard stop.
Yeah.
As soon as you see you have a sex offense charge, there is like almost nothing available for you. So it's hard. It is really hard. And I know that it's a controversial, aspect of this particular conversation. But there are people with sex offense charges that maybe have not actually committed a sexual offense, and they have this charge on them that's going to follow them for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
It impacts so many different areas of their lives. So I try to lead with that. I lead with an open mind and just a listening ear. I just listen, and I don't judge. We listen and we don't judge, quite literally.
Active listening. It sounds like there's a little bit of like compartmentalizing too, like stepping into the social worker's shoes and leaving Sheridan's shoes back at the office. You know?
And I often say to people, I say out-of-pocket things sometimes, but I say I have free will. Like if you're my client at work, I have to compartmentalize like I am being this role. But if you are not paying me and you are just a human person who's talking to me, I can say whatever I want.
Right. And I think that's really healthy for people in this field. Like, so many social workers that I know have like really dark humor, like really dark humor. And you kind of have to, because you work with
it's acquired.
If you
it's
don't,
an acquired taste for sure.
If you work within these different populations and see and experience the things that you
stories.
Do, and you're not able to have any sense of humor about it, you will be so drained by the end of it.
Right.
So it's a humor that not a lot of other people understand. And I want to add to what I was saying as well. Like, this work that I'm doing, it is fulfilling to me, but I know that it's not everybody's cup of tea. Like, some people are going to hear what I say about, sex offenders and think like, okay, like that's just
what other people think about your values doesn't matter.
They're
your values.
That is very true. That's true. And it's taken me a while to really allow myself to build that confidence, because there's a lot of people that think that this work is just not okay. Like we shouldn't be trying to get people
Right.
out
Like,
of
why would you
jail.
want to help
You
somebody like
know,
that?
Yeah.
like there are people that genuinely feel that way, and that's their right to feel that way.
Yeah.
But
They probably wouldn't be very good social workers.
yeah,
Your
probably.
when your supervisor came, like, it was really interesting because she was talking about people that are committed. Let's say they're Baker acted, and then she knows that they might have a mental illness or that they should be there. But if they say they don't want to be there, she's going to help them get out. And she's going to question
Yeah.
how they were. So she's more like looking at it from a legal standpoint of like
Mhm.
standing up for people's rights.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hadn't considered that angle and thought it
That
was really
too.
like a really wonderful premise that
Mhm.
it's not about like, it wasn't an ethical from like they're right or they're wrong. It was more like they have rights and we should respect and uphold people's
That
rights.
is another aspect of it as well, because because it's within like the legal field. If the client wants help, it doesn't matter whether I think they're like getting out or not. Like my job is to help them. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like they deserve the right to be advocated for. Just like
Yeah.
anybody else has everyone has the right to be advocated for. And I'm in a really unique position to be able to help people that maybe otherwise wouldn't have that help. Like, do you remember we met that attorney from, I think, the 10th Judicial Circuit, and I was so shocked when she told me that they don't have social workers in the 10th Judicial Circuit. Or I think they have one.
That is so.
I have a whole social services
Wow.
department at my internship, like multiple social workers that do the work that I'm doing. They have one person. And I think the 10th, I think it was the 10th, I could be wrong. One
Yeah, it's
person
not equal.
for a very, like, it's a large amount of incarcerated clients that just, they won't get this kind of help. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Anyways, I
You-
think I went a
yeah,
little
no.
off.
No, you haven't. You talked a little
I'm
bit
just-
about how you work to eliminate some like structural barriers, kind of along the lines of like
Yeah.
you miss 100% of shots that you don't take.
Yes.
Everybody deserves a shot in the first place.
Everybody deserves a
Yeah.
shot.
Maybe it'll make a
That's-
difference in their lives.
Right, exactly. And I think about like the advocacy role and how we do that in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And when we work with the patient who is maybe telling us that, or not telling us any information, who is from another country, who says they need help getting food, getting care, but they won't give us an address. They won't tell us whether or not they have an ID.
Mm.
We wonder, maybe they're undocumented, maybe they're scared. So the way that we would advocate for them in that respect is to not mention it, to tell them, well, I can look for a resource that doesn't need that information, and call the resource directly. Do you need to see an ID? Does the person have to live here? Tell me what information you're going to need when a person registers to get help with you guys. Along those lines, you operate on a sliding scale. Do people need to provide a social security number? That kind of thing. And then go back to the patient. Hopefully they will answer. We try to tell them during the call, we are just here to help. We won't push you into doing anything that you don't want to do. I'm going to find this information about a resource that I think might help you, and I'll let you know what they say. And kind of like what you said earlier, put the ball in their court after we've kind of done a little bit of the advocacy, done a little bit of the research, and really found out like the bare minimum of what somebody needs to provide to get help, and advocate in that way. Like, I think in case management, there are times when you advocate directly for a patient, but there are times too when a patient is hesitant to talk about their identity, their experience, that you kind of have to do a little bit of pre-advocating. I don't know if there's a word for that or if you guys know what I mean, but
I
Like
know what you
brokering?
mean.
brokering,
Oh.
yeah. Yeah.
We don't do as much
Yeah.
just because of like the kind of place that I'm at, but I have before a lot. I do work at UCF, and I I do broker for like international students. So I have a partnership with Global, and I work with a professor to set up involvement plans for international students. My idea would be like, if you came from Japan, you have no idea what's going on. So you might be really hesitant to get involved. But if you come see me, we talk about the options. You make a plan of what you're going to do. You have someone
Right.
holding you accountable. So
Following up.
following up with them, so that I would do more brokering as my job at UCF. I do more brokering of like talking to people
Yeah.
to make sure that there's like a soft launch, there's an
Yeah.
introduction, emailing this person.
That also really provides a sense of like safety too.
Yeah.
Because as a international student coming from like it's kind of the same like coming into a new culture that you're it's very, very different, and you have somebody there kind of holding your hand like, okay, you're gonna be
Yeah,
like,
it's safe here. I'm going to
let's
help
take
you.
like baby steps and until you feel comfortable to like fly free. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, that's really good. We will sometimes jump into like a 3-way call with a client. Like, we'll be talking to a client. Oh, did you make that appointment with so and so clinic? No, I was thinking about it. And well, would you want me to add them to the call right now and we can make the appointment together?
Yeah.
You know, something like you said, like
Yeah.
a soft launch.
Mhm.
You know, and if they say no, then that's
Then
okay.
no, but
It's
you
that
give them the
they just
option,
don't want to right
right?
now.
And
Right.
sometimes it just feels better to have somebody helping you with it, right? And sometimes
Yeah.
a task like that can be very daunting and a little scary to like ask for
Especially,
help and seek resources. But if you have like
Yeah.
a social worker in your corner, I think Victoria said something like this in our last episode where she was saying she would go to like the social services office
yeah,
with
in
the client in
person.
Yes.
person and be there with them. Like
Because
that's
feel like
so
they would get real
reassuring.
help.
Right.
Exactly. I
When-
think that's a powerful thing that social workers can do for their
Right.
clients is
For clients
there.
who have experienced depression, to have somebody there in what we might not see as a position of power, but like as an administrative professional, like for an organization, whether we're an
Mhm.
intern or not, we do have some perceived sort of power.
Mhm.
And to use that to advocate for somebody who is experiencing a systematic barrier is helpful for them
Yeah.
to shoot the shot.
Yeah.
I do
so
it
to
now
speak.
because I don't
Yeah.
take no for an answer.
And you shouldn't.
Oh, like when
And you
right.
shouldn't.
A bunch
That's
of times,
something-
all the time.
That's something Kris Jenner. Have you heard that from Kris Jenner before?
Did
Which
you-
is like she's the totally wrong person to be bringing up on a social work podcast.
She does very well for herself. I'm not going
She-
to throw
And
any
for her,
shade.
she's a momager. She's like
She
she
is.
doesn't take no for an answer either.
She
so, I
literally
mean,
doesn't. She was like, if the answer is no, you're asking the wrong person. I
That
think
is
that's
such
one
There's
of her
very
quotes.
few
Good.
no's in life.
That's
Right.
such a good
Right.
motto
Mhm.
for this. Got to get her on the podcast.
It really is.
Gotta get Mama Jenner on the podcast.
That would be crazy.
That would be
Oh my
absolutely
gosh, I'd be
insane.
sitting there like this.
Oh.
So tell me about Kylie.
How are the grandkids?
How the grandkids.
Oh my gosh.
The glam kids.
Grandkids.
So we talked a little bit about how we advocate for clients. Let's shift things to the workplace.
Okay.
Mhm.
Have you ever worked with someone in a social work setting who maybe doesn't have the same training about cultural competency and cultural humility? And how do you navigate that territory? This is a hard one.
I think I've been very blessed to work with supervisors and colleagues that are all very respectful. I
Mhm.
don't think anyone really stands out to me that has not been. But and maybe like this is just going too far off like away from the question, but I've met a lot of people in my personal life that don't have that level of cultural
Yeah.
competence,
I heard
and which
some
is
crazy shit this weekend.
oh, we got to talk about it because like it really
Okay.
and it does bother me very deeply, and I have to remind myself that not everybody is like me.
Right.
And I don't mean that in an arrogant way at all. I just mean not everybody has had like a class about cultural competence and
Yes.
diversity. And not everybody is going to be held to that standard in their
Right.
career, you know?
Yeah.
But I think that there's a level of respect and humility we can have that should be standard like across the board. Like I think that we all should just be very respectful, and I've come in contact with a lot of people that are not, and it's uncomfortable because it's uncomfortable to speak up and say something. But at the same time,
Hmm.
I do feel an obligation as somebody that is trying to dismantle these oppressive systems to do my part and say, hey, like, that's a little bit offensive. Like, can we,
Hmm.
reframe how we are talking about this person or people with this background? So that's what I have to say about that. I don't know if I went too far off away from the
No,
question,
I
but
think you alluded to like, so you usually run into people that maybe don't have the same cultural competence training that you do outside of the workplace. But in the workplace, it sounds like you would approach the situation with like an educational lens. So like maybe somebody says something offensive about, I don't know, a certain group of people. Well, have you thought about how these people might feel when you say that?
exactly,
Or
exactly. Approaching it with
right.
curiosity.
Have you thought about this experience that the person has had and maybe there's a better way to talk about it, so it's like talk about it a little more tenderly. Or maybe what you said, maybe using an I, like, I don't know, using I phrases. Like,
Yes,
I
absolutely.
heard you say this about our client. I wanted to know, what do you mean by that? I think also turning the mirror to somebody else so that
Yeah.
they can think about what they said instead of directly chastising them or
Mhm.
saying, you were wrong, that was rude.
I agree.
Um, Saying, how do you think that person might feel if you said this to them, considering everything they've been through? So I'm kind of similar experience to you where I don't encounter it too much at my internship. So then it makes me think like maybe I'm the person.
No. Oh my gosh, you're
But maybe
I'm
I
sorry.
am. And like
maybe,
maybe
but I don't
I'm
know.
not the most untrained person in the world, but maybe in the office, like I have a lot of things to learn. Sometimes hear I hear the way the social workers in the office speak about the clients, and I think maybe this is just because of the place we live in and the like culture that we're in right now, but I think, wow, they said that so nicely about that client. Like I feel
Oh,
really grateful to work with people who are just seemingly automatically culturally competent. You know what I mean? Even
It
in the phrases
feels
they say, the way they talk about the work
effortless.
they do.
It feels
Yeah,
effortless, but I think it takes a lot of time and
right.
experience. And I think that's where we have to bring it back to we're we're still learning.
Yeah,
We are interns, and that feeling that you get of, hearing them speak about a client in such a kind and respectful way, and
yeah.
and phrasing it in a way where it just sees the person. Because I know that feeling. I know
You
what
know
you're
what I'm
alluding
talking
to.
about? Okay, it's not just me.
And I don't think it means that we are the problem, but I think we can learn
We're
from that.
learning.
We can really learn from it because it takes like the experience of like hearing people phrase things in a certain way. And then I kind of pick up on that. A lot of the things
Like,
that
wow,
I've
that was
heard like
really
my
thoughtful.
mentors and supervisors, say about a client, then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna steal that from you actually, because that's a good way to document
Yeah,
when I make my little notes.
right.
Now I know how I can
it's
phrase
another
that.
language.
It's another
That's
language,
what I'm learning, like
really.
caller reports. So like you're learning like all these little phrases you have to put instead of like they said caller said, it's like caller report, caller denied.
Mhm.
Like
Mm,
there's specific ways to phrase
yeah.
things that is appropriate. And that's a whole, there's books, textbooks and textbooks on that
Yeah.
that I have
Yeah.
not read
It's
yet.
a
I wonder
skill.
if
It's a
we
skill.
have like some module in a class about that
Oh, I
coming our
hope
way.
so.
We eventually, because I was like, I told my supervisor, she had a book when she studied and she got that book and has it in the office because I said, I was like, how does anyone know all this stuff? And I love to watch like Instagram videos where like somebody asks a therapist, like a friend asks another therapist, like, hey, how would you phrase this?
Mhm.
Oh yeah, we talked about this last time.
And I
Yeah,
love to watch
I watched those
those.
too.
Yeah.
They're so good.
They've been coming up in my feed.
oh, good.
That's
Hey,
good.
Yeah. FBI man in Virginia's phone, whoever's making the algorithm.
yes, we want to see more
Good
of that.
job.
Yeah.
More about
This is
note
what we
taking.
like.
More social work reels,
Yeah.
please.
I really enjoy it though. It helps me learn how to write very respectfully and thoughtfully about
Yeah.
my clients.
I think that we acquire these skills of like cultural competence and humility and respectfulness and appreciation of diversity. I think I learn those most when I go in the field and I'm at my placement and I see it happening around me.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of makes me think like, oh my gosh, there is a world where we can all be respectful towards somebody.
Yes.
Do you
and
ever
then
get
you
that
leave.
feeling?
Yes, because
And like it's hard work, but
ugh,
we work with good people. I can't speak for everybody, but I feel like I work with good people, and it sounds like you had a
do
similar
feel the
experience.
same.
And I feel the way about UCF. Like,
Yeah.
we're just so
Yes.
spoiled because everyone like values education and diversity, and people
Right.
ask each other their pronouns, and they just have a lot more versus like the real world, right? Like
Yeah.
at the university, there's just like a higher level of respect of education and identity.
Yes.
And we're also in a master's program, and like people are so smart and educated.
Yeah.
Just delightful. And all the students, like I feel like very lucky that the environments we're in are like at another caliber of people doing the most, being
Yeah.
wonderful.
I agree. But then I think the shock is when like you leave this environment
Right.
and go out into the real world, and then it's like,
Right. Or like, how do you
yeah.
do that in the real world? How do you do that with a client who says something disrespectful about the nurse in the room or
Mm,
the, I don't know, security officer at the jail or somebody who says something at your placement about like another person, another colleague that they've worked with? Like, I don't know if you guys have ever had experiences with clients who said something disrespectful, like about someone else's identity or culture or values, but in our placement, that's usually something that gets brought to supervision because
mm,
it's hard as an intern to deal with it right then and there.
yeah.
Sometimes you just let the client know, like, I'm sorry, but I have to step out for a minute. Maybe we can continue this conversation later, or you can continue it with another social worker.
Mm.
And then we bring it to supervision and we talk about it there. How could we have handled this better? Who do you want to bring
Mm.
with you? Do you want to bring a friend to the next meeting so that there's a third party involved in the conversation? You know, does anything like that happen to you guys? I know that's
I've
not
had
on the list, but
No, but
I
it's
thought of it and I thought it might be interesting to
it
put
is
in this discussion.
interesting. Yeah, and I think I've had sort of a similar experience when I was back at SALT Outreach. One of my clients said something a bit disrespectful about the last social worker that was there before me. And in the moment, I hadn't had an experience
It's
like
like
that before, so it's kind of like,
it's jarring.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, how do I
Is this
really
real
didn't
real life
know.
right now?
Yeah. Like,
You look
okay,
at the camera.
I didn't take notes about this in class, so I
Yeah.
really don't know how to. So I
took
was
all
like,
notes in class.
I'm really sorry that you had that experience, and I kind of tried to redirect to
Redirect is good.
what the client's needs were, because it kind of came out of nowhere. It was like, yeah, this social worker just sounded like he wasn't really listening to me, and it was like really kind of crazy stuff that he was saying about the social worker, and I was like,
Like assumptions.
assumptions, and on top of that, like the guy he was talking about was my previous supervisor too, so I was like,
That's
this
hard
is
to like hear.
really, yeah. I was like, I'm really sorry that you had that experience, but let's see what I can help you with today, and just redirecting the conversation so that I don't want to give them the floor to just disparage,
Yeah.
another social worker. But at the same time, I still want to do my job and
Mhm.
help them where I can.
Yeah.
It's a tricky situation
Mhm.
when that happens. Have you had a situation like that before, or
It's crazy you said the thing. We were talking earlier about our script possibly having a link to global interconnections of oppression. We're like, how would we ever cover that?
Mhm.
And I was at a party on Saturday, like there's a little DJ. I was at a coffee shop, and it was like one of my great friends had their great friend. They're like, meet my great friend. We're also great friends. I said, okay, we're having this conversation, and somehow we got in this conversation where they're basically this long rant about how they feel like systematic oppression that's happening right now
Mm.
needs to be held in a context of greater oppression that's happened throughout history.
This is such an
this is-
interesting conversation.
Have you
heard
and
that,
I
like-
can't believe you had this conversation.
I didn't have
in
a conversation. I was talked to.
in a
I
This
coffee
is big
shop.
brain activities.
I
and
love
I think
it.
I need you to say that
love
again.
It.
So basically, like and I also, it was like really, really, and also we're talking about like our judgments, right? So like, I was talking, I don't want to say anything that's too much. So I was talking about like, we were talking about a celebrity that we've talked about before that we don't absolutely love.
Mhm.
And I was like, you know what? Sometimes they do things that I don't agree with ethically. So then I'm not sure if I like them, but I also feel like they're succeeding in a system that was set up. Like, it's not their fault they're succeeding in this system. But I feel like as a celebrity, they have a obligation to make things better. They can't just participate
I agree.
and put themselves at the
Yes.
top
Right.
and not like do anything for anybody. Like you need to use your platform to help others to do more. And maybe it could just be my values. And they were like, well, I don't know why you've been focusing on like this little thing. If you look at like what happened to the Native Americans, like it doesn't matter that the Native Americans in America were like colonized because they used to brutalize each other and they were taking each other as slaves and the Europeans were taken as slaves. And like kind of saying like all these times that people have been like brutalized throughout history and how like slavery has happened throughout history and in many, many different cultures. So therefore, if you look at it from like a global perspective, and I was like, and I came away thinking my opinion would be like, a past wrong doesn't negate a current wrong. Like there are people now who have
Yes.
feelings and who are suffering. And even though for thousands of
That-
years, people have done fucked
That
up
was
things.
So
That's like saying
eloquent.
genocide's okay because genocide has happened before. Genocide is
Are
not
you
okay.
kidding?
It's never okay.
So if you would apply to a right, be like, well, there's been
Right.
genocides here, there. So if we look at it from a
Like,
global perspective,
okay,
it's
but,
part of
like,
the human.
I think
It was a lot.
I
It was a
think
lot for Saturday morning.
It's
Oh my god, at the
honestly-
coffee shop?
It's honestly, I think that is such a niche, like form of gaslighting. If that's like even the right form for
I
it,
don't
it's like
e- I
it's
don't
like
know.
how it's like deflecting from. Like, how did we even get to that? Like, why are we talking about all these different things that happen in history? Like, I'm talking about what's happening right now.
I'm talking about
not
right
saying-
now.
I'm not saying all of those things
Right.
aren't important, but why are you saying that this isn't important? You know?
Yeah,
It's-
this
they
isn't important
have-
because of all these other. It was
Like,
it
what
was
about
a
what's
wild
going on
conversation
right now, dude? Like,
They have a
can we-
completely different view, different experience of the world, different set of values,
Yes.
culture,
That's a
all
really
of
good way
those
to
good
put it.
words.
It's a really good way to put it.
A thing I've never heard, and these are thoughts, and also talking about like our school system and how we're taught to think a certain way in our school system, but we're not being taught these things that happened in history, or that basically also advocating like we shouldn't feel bad about colonialism is like one of their premises.
Oh, like what schools might be teaching to their youth.
Teaching to us like
That
that we
concept.
should like colonialism was wrong and hurt a lot of different cultures, right? We learned that in our program. So he's advocating like we shouldn't feel bad for that because it's things like it's just the most strongest tribe. Like saying in Hawaii there was like 14 tribes, let's say, for example. And the queen of Hawaii was just the one who was like able to be the strongest in all those tribes. And then Europe came, and that's the strongest tribe now, and that takes over Hawaii.
Mhm.
So it's just part of a system that happens. But I'm like, but I also don't, I also feel like we should, whether regardless of like if Hawaiian people are fighting each other, I should think they should be left to do that. If that's like their culture should be
Because why are we
preserved.
jumping in? Like, why do we even have Hawaii as a? There's so much absolutely wrong with this.
But
There's
that could
so
be from
much wrong
my
with it.
background living like
But I think as
overseas.
social workers, when you work with people who have such a different perspective on some of the same topics, it's kind of like how you mentioned, like some people believe people should be, what did you say? Like believe you went like this and
that they should, that culture, leave
Yeah.
them
To be preserved.
to be preserved.
for a
yes.
lot of different conversations as social workers, we may be able to, it's hard, but like compartmentalize our own values. Let them talk about what they believe. I think for some conversations too, like if it's too much, you need to step away. But let people
Yes.
talk about what they believe. That's part of who we are as social workers.
Yeah.
It was
hard to swallow.
It was like a lot of differing views and having that thing
Yeah.
of like, okay, maintaining trying to, and then after the conversation he was like, I'm really sorry, you
Be
didn't deserve all
curious.
that.
Oh,
I
your
like,
friend of the friend said that?
yeah,
the friend
he was
of the great friend.
he realized like I did the thing and then and he's like, I'm really sorry, like you didn't deserve all that.
Oh.
I kind of like went off and I was like, yeah, it really wasn't an appropriate
Right.
conversation for this setting.
Yeah.
But
and
I
then
think
he
that's
But
reflected
during
on
the
that.
moment, you kind of compartmentalized. You let them, you
Yeah.
let the conversation happen.
I'm trying to understand, like, okay, like
Where
where
to
are
get
they?
curious.
I try. It was.
Yeah.
I,
But it's
Yes.
it's hard.
That
And
was
I
a hard
think
moment.
to connect it back to the topic of this. I think diversity might not only just mean like cultural diversity, but like diversity of values and opinions.
and opinions.
And
Mhm.
I think that's something that, at least for me, I'm good at compartmentalizing and hearing out opinions, but it's difficult. It is difficult for me because when I come into contact with somebody that has such strong and differing opinions, and I know that there's nothing I can do
Yeah.
to change their mind, I think it's very difficult for me to have those conversations. And I know that about myself. And for that reason, I tend to stray away from such divisive topics with those that I know
Yeah.
disagree with me. There are some people that are really good at engaging in discourse in that way. And I commend those people because it's such an important thing to
I
be
think
able
it's a
to
lost
have.
art.
It really is.
Yes.
There are people that are so good at having respectful conversations about very divisive topics. I just don't feel that I'm one of them. And I recognize that that's not my strength. And
But
I think that's okay.
It can be something that you learn.
It can be
Like,
something you learn, but it doesn't have to be something I push myself into.
Yeah.
I don't need to push myself into situations where I feel like this is a really uncomfortable conversation. I can step away. We have the freedom to do that.
Yeah.
Even in the field, I've been told so many times by, my supervisors and my colleagues, if you don't feel safe, if you don't feel comfortable, if you feel like the conversation is going a way that's like getting a little bit unsafe almost, you don't have to engage.
Right.
because we're not superheroes.
Yeah.
We're not superheroes. We're not supposed to
Mm.
be able to do everything. And while it's important to respect the opinions of other people, we can't neglect our own
Yeah.
values in the process and our own sense of safety in the process. And I think a lot of times opinions that other people might have just make you feel unsafe.
Yeah.
If I have somebody come talk to me about why colonization is not that big of a deal because it's happened so many times in history,
Oh.
I'm sorry, that is something that makes me feel unsafe because as
Right.
somebody whose, country was colonized, and I've seen the effects of that generationally through my parents, like I don't feel the obligation to stay and listen to that conversation or to engage
Yeah.
with you because now you are neglecting my own identity and you're saying that my history and my feelings don't matter because of all of these things that have happened in past history. So
Yeah.
then at that point I don't want to engage anymore. And I
And I
think we
think
have
if
the right
yeah,
to do that.
you
Yes.
absolutely do. I think if I step into a conversation where I have like a visceral reaction to the opinion that another person has, as a social worker, it would not be beneficial for me or the client to remain in that situation. Like we
Yes,
said before,
absolutely.
bring it to supervision, talk about it, process it a little bit. I don't know, talk to your therapist about it if you really need to. But to sit and work through that with a client and be like borderline arguing or like letting it affect the treatment of the client, like at the end of the day, you may completely disagree like with your entire being and have like I can only describe it as like a visceral reaction to their opinions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not that's not coming from a helping place. Like you can't approach a
Exactly.
It's
conversation
too
to
difficult
help
because
that
I'm
person.
spending too much time self-regulating.
Yes, yeah,
So I'm
Exactly.
not able, like, when I talk to
right.
people on the phone, I'm able to like drop everything out. But when they're saying something that I feel a visceral reaction for, like I'm having to work so hard on me that
Mm,
Right.
like
Yeah,
I'm not able to move anything forward.
yeah,
that's the perfect way to put it. That is like such a eloquent way to put this feeling.
yeah. So I know that we're ending our podcast on, kind of I feel like we got ramped up there
Yeah.
and
And
we're
now we
kind of
gotta bring
coming
it down
to
on the
yeah,
decline.
we're coming
Slow
down to
decline.
the last few minutes. But when we work with people from all different walks of life, all different backgrounds, ethnicities, cultures, different identities, it seems like the idea is that we can learn by listening actively,
Mhm.
being humble, getting curious,
Mhm. Mhm.
but we all have our own personal line where we need to step away and maybe process what has just been said. Um, and we're human. Like, I think it comes down to like, we can never stop learning, we
Yeah.
can never stop practicing. We will always find ourselves in a situation that makes us uncomfortable for the rest of our lives. But it's just learning how to work through that so that we can ultimately help the
And I
right.
think that's the best way to respect the client as
Right.
well, is to know ourselves and just bringing
Yeah.
it back to diversity. I think that we can respect and appreciate diversity while not neglecting ourselves and
Yeah.
our own values in the process. But I always think that there is more to learn, and I think that there is a importance in pushing yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit,
Yeah.
it's okay to feel a little bit uncomfortable sometimes, but the only person that knows your own line is you. Like
Yeah.
we are the
Right.
ones that get to call the shots about what makes us feel uncomfortable
Right.
and unsafe, and we make those judgments. But we also know when we're able to kind of push just a little bit
Right.
and get out of our comfort zone and hear opinions and
Feel the brain
values.
cells grow,
Yeah,
like
regenerate. Like we're also able to do that, and I think
yeah.
that it's important that we do that because that is how we build um, cultural humility and respect, and that's how we grow as social workers.
Yeah.
It just takes like practice and experience to come into
Yeah.
contact with people that are so different than.
Yeah. Absolutely. Wholeheartedly agree. So, Carolyn, I don't know if you want to say anything about Phi Alpha before we wrap
Close
this
us
thing
out.
up. You want to close us out?
Our podcast sponsored by Phi Alpha, the Social Work Honor Society at UCF. If you are invited to join, you should join because you get a lifetime membership. You get prestige. I was at a conference recently and I was sitting at a table with the assistant field director of our program. It was held by Elite DNA, which hires, and there was a woman at the table. We were talking about Phi Alpha, and she said, "Oh, I was part of the leadership. I was the treasurer."
Wow.
So it's a national organization. So social workers you'll be connected to all around America. And maybe you'll be in a room trying to get that job, trying to network. And that person will say, I'm also in that, right? It's a sorority fraternity life, you know?
Yeah. I never thought about it that way.
It's the sisterhood, or well,
The
And it's a
sisterhood of the
non-gendered-
traveling pants.
yeah, it's I don't know, what is it called?
It's that Greek life.
It's that Greek
Hashtag
life.
that Greek life.
Yeah, so you could be part of
social work
it.
Greek life. You're connected forever.
Yeah, forever. They send you an amazing pin. You could wear your pin.
Wow.
They send you
I gotta get into this. I need my
Yeah.
pin on my
You could be
grad
wearing your pin so
on my
people can
regalia.
see. You get
Yeah.
a cord. If you do
Well,
some
okay.
participation stuff, we'll give you a beautiful cord.
Nice.
There's even scholarships and grants you can apply for as a Phi Alpha member.
There are, and I've actually
national-
they're due May 31st. I've actually started filling them out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so we would love to have you because,
We're
we're
going to
here.
have some events coming up this semester. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned
for
to our
more.
Night Connect.
And thanks for listening to
Thanks for listening.
episode 2 of Girls Gone Verbal.